who is that guy she's talking about? Thank you, Carly. My great long colleague, my bud, my divinity school bud. Thank you for the MPHA, my dear nominators, all of my DPH colleagues, here and not here. Thank you to my husband, John, my daughter, Amber, who more than anyone understand the impacts of jobs like ours on our families. It is so lovely to be in this wonderful and important cultural space. Really great change. I'm really delighted to be here. And June is busting out all over. Happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride! Woo!
It's a particularly poignant Pride this year, with attacks on LGBTQ+ folks nationwide and internationally, both physical and legislative. Bans on drag performers and on trans kids getting medical care. The Uganda anti-homosexuality law passed just this week. Even Target can't sell rainbow-themed bandanas due to threats of violence. But Boston is doing it right, reconstructing its celebration around the trans and BIPOC voices that constitute this community and the central issues of our time. I congratulate my fellow honorees, Dr. Castiel, my partner in the work, who long before we made it easy legislatively pushed through syringe services program in the city of Worcester. Deputy Commissioner Tiana Davis, who I'm just meeting today, and I'm delighted to see carrying on the work of public health into a new era. And my longtime colleague and bud, Nurse Andy Epstein, who so impressed me in my first week at DPH, explaining how the Act Now program was enticing a widening circle of community health centers to take on the care of people with HIV, and provided such impetus over the years to creative works in public health her entire career, even today. I'm so appreciative of the recognition of governmental public health by MPHA. We who have long toiled in the fields of public health, generally underpaid, with constrained workplace resources across multiple national, state, and local administrations in service of the health of the Commonwealth. We occupy a special place in this work. And it's been a special joy and privilege to work in public health. Initially, this career made a personal dream of mine come true, to get paid to talk about sex and drugs in public. And how many times did I mistype, and how many times did you mistype pubic health? and you go over the document and print it again, and they put spell check perfect catches. Plus, I got to work every day of my 35 years in state government. I used to do stuff in education as an out gay man, every day of that work. Back in my day, I and my queer colleagues were the diversity candidates. We in public health are entrusted with the most intimate details, the most fragile components of the lives of the people we serve, in the expectation that we will hold these details closely and act on them ethically and effectively. The bugs we track don't really know us or care about us, but boy, do they ever tell the truth about us. This is a sacred trust built around the protections of civil government. I've had some added opportunity of working alongside some pretty brilliant and super committed people. A lot of them are right here. Epidemiologists, public health nurses, managers, community health workers, local health officials, media and communication specialists, data scientists, providers, clinicians, researchers, laboratorians, fiscal administrators, contract managers, policy analysts, facility staff. It's a pile of expertise and devoted service. There's something noble and important about grinding out the many seemingly unimportant, minute details of governmental public health every day. I am fully enamored of my colleagues in this work. And I've been guided and mentored by my forebears, and this is where I get in trouble, because I'm going to name some people and not name all of you. Sorry. I want to call out David Mulligan, the first Commissioner of Public Health. John Auerbach, who hired me at the Department of Public Health. Steve McGuire, who mentored me in the hard-boiled work of governmental public health. Al DeRoya, who taught me everything about infectious disease. Monica Burrell, Stuart Landers, Margaret Cook, Charlotte Bartlett, Lauren Smith. I could go on, but just know that we have been building on the shoulders of others, and we have to boost those who come behind us. As well as my past and current DPH and local health colleagues and the communities we serve. This is where I learned my skills and found the means of just action in the world to make manifest my fundamental calling. My late mom, Jeanette, was an educator and a family therapist. My late dad, George, was an engineer. I believe that when they were alive, they saw how my career in public health was a merging of their skills and interests, deeply invested in helping people learn and heal, and equally invested in building things that last. To be able to do this work is itself a product of my privilege as a white, able-bodied, cisgender, male, affluent, educated, professional, U.S. citizen with a ranking position in government. It is also a gift to be considered trustworthy by those whose trust so many members of these privileged classes have most violated. James Baldwin famously wrote, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Years ago, I first read this quote as a psychological reality. It conjured up my dealing with family issues, my personal demons, my coming out process, learning to face life as it is, becoming a responsible adult. I take pride in being and surviving as an out gay man in the latter portion of the 20th century, when our lives and livelihoods were threatened, our relationships were illegal, our friends were routinely succumbing to violence and self-harm. Pride also in helping to tell the story of these harms through data. Thank you, Carlene, for noting that. Being a gay man during this period, it provided me some access to, some insight into concepts like W.B. Du Bois's theory of double consciousness and the experience of code switching through my own lived experience of navigating dangerous waters of identity. I mean, an older gay man helping me to come out in the 70s told me, never tell a straight person you're gay. Thankfully, another gay friend of the family told me I could be anyone I wanted. I'm glad I listened to the latter. The closet is deadly. In my lifetime, I've been witness to one of the most remarkably successful social and political movements in history, which according to sociologic research, I heard this on Hidden Brain, has even altered the measured level of implicit bias against LGBTQ plus folks in this country. Alas, having declared mission accomplished way too prematurely, most of these changes have only been fully realized by privileged, white, cisgender members of the community. BIPOC and trans, non-gender conforming members are still at acute risk and experiencing harm. And remember, the fight is raging internationally. But mostly I credit experience of being gay in America as helping to open doors of my consciousness about race in America. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. As a queer hero of mine, James Baldwin spoke to me in a particular way. But now I know I didn't hear him fully. I didn't hear him as a black man in America. I blame the deeply ingrained defense mechanisms of white fragility for this. I later read Baldwin stating an epidemiologic reality about naming and facing the challenges of health disparities, telling the truth about what is happening in our communities, directing our attention and resources where they are needed most. This approach was operationalized in the HIV movement with tools we learned from the women's health and disability rights movements. Nothing about us without us. Working in meaningful community engagement. We worked through prevention planning groups, writing like planning councils, specialized advisory groups, created so folks didn't have to be the only one in the room needing to represent a complex set of lived experiences, and could depend for safety and backup on others who share theirs. I'm grateful to the thousands of people, these friends of mine, living with HIV, who instructed us, guided us, corrected us, and literally built a new system of care with us. The movement, started and led by people with HIV, transformed how drugs are studied and approved, how medical care is delivered. I remember being taught it's a two-way street with a person seeking care at the center, and practical advice like stand between your doctor and the door until you get your answers to your questions. Learning how the ability to optimally make use of biomedical advances depends first on housing and other tangible life supports, and transformed how public health systems respond, how data are collected, how they are interpreted, and how they are shared out. But the stated goal of fully infusing the practices and principles of the HIV response remain unmet. Thankfully, the COVID-19 pandemic response, the analysis of the many public health failures in that effort, infused new energy into health equity-focused community engagement and leadership, working to transform the power balance between affected communities and those of us with access to resources, information, and influence. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. I now give this quote as a calling out of a structural reality. The need to face the underlying nature of American life, dating back to the day the first white Europeans set foot on this continent. I have particular access to one thin line of my own genealogy, the paternal line, of course. People with my surname, my ancestors, are associated with atrocities on both continents. The suppression of a Scottish revolt in the Midlands of Great Britain, the warring violation of treaties with the Wampanoag and the allied tribes, and their subsequent murder and enslavement, and the enslavement of Africans. There are multiple Black individuals who carry my last name who are buried in a segregated section of the colonial so-called common burying ground of Newport, Rhode Island. The evidence is clear that my very life is a product of this injustice, and it's so very much emblematic of the history of America itself. The privilege I hold, which was built on the crushing of others, did not end in the 17th century. I'm the child of two white college-educated parents who bought their first home in Long Island, New York on the GI Bill, just as the Black residents of the town next door, Roosevelt, New York, were denied mortgages through federally sanctioned redlining, and therefore access to the very generational wealth that has supported my own family's well-being. My work, our work, needs to be about disrupting and dismantling the laws, policies, language, monetary systems, health systems, physical environments, thought processes, habits, and other overt and covert structures of structural racism in this country. Public health has many of the tools to contribute to this effort. The very mechanisms of statute, regulation, and policy that have so long constrained and harmed others can and should be deployed to advance racial equity and health equity, protect vulnerable communities, and enable the healing of the land. My mother always said, she was a big old feminist, that for women to occupy their rightful place in society, men need to step aside. The truth is, for BIPOC folks and members of so many other suppressed communities to occupy their rightful place in a just society, white people need to step aside. And as a man in his 60s, I also hear the siren call to step aside and choose to do so, hopefully creating room for a new generation and new complement of public health leaders. I am retiring from state service next month, and I'm eager to see what those who in so many ways don't look like me can say, learn, see, instruct, build, and do. In the end, deepening my understanding of Brother Baldwin's witness with the assistance of the BIPOC community members who have so generously and forgivingly instructed me, has helped me evolve my life from one rooted in the safe niceties of charity to one increasingly founded on uncomfortable and troubling restorative justice goals. prompting an ongoing commitment to examine my own life in the oppression of others, my own role in the oppression of others, to change where and with whom I stand. I still firmly believe in the singularity of our status as human beings, even as I recognize that nothing about how the world is constructed reflects that truth. That white people's history, laws, institutions, and even the way we think and speak encodes and preserves fundamental inequities imposed upon BIPOC people. The attainment of equal access to and possession of the riches of life is wholly dependent on white people's capacity for compassion, self-containment, courage, humility, honesty, repentance, and reparation. I call upon myself and my white colleagues in public health to continue to do the personal and collective work to make this overdue justice manifest. So it's with So it is with an acute awareness of the razor-thin line between elevation, read transfer of authority, and appropriation, read larceny, and the special status to be accorded to the lives and bodies of Black and brown people. I want to end with this brief excerpt from Amanda Gorman's The Ode We Owe, lest she be further silenced, which she delivered at the United Nations. Until no one's worth is rendered by the race, gender, class, or identity they were born, this morn let it be sworn that we are one human kin, grounded not by the griefs we bear, not just by the griefs we bear, but by the good we begin. Thank you so much for this honor.